Hello, villagers, and welcome to another episode of the Village Employee Podcast. I'm Diana, and today I'm excited to be joined by our Chief Human Resources Officer, Juan Taveras. Juan, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Diana. I'm excited.
I am too. Before we dive into HR and everything happening across the village, I'd love for everyone to get to know you a little better. So tell us about your career journey and how you got into HR and what led you to the village.
This feels like an interview question. So I'll say I started, like most HR professionals, you'll probably hear this a lot. HR found me. It was not my initial career path. I started my career in the hospitality industry. I went to school in Syracuse, New York. I'm originally from the East Coast, and studied hospitality. And right out of college, I went into the hotel and restaurant industry. Spent a number of years there in a variety of roles, front of the house, back of the house, management level, and then kind of gained over, I don't know, maybe the first 5 years of my career, a very generalist operations experience. And then I started to slowly take on HR related work. So I started with like training and supporting with recruiting, managing benefits and payroll. And then before you know it, I had a full-time HR role. And it was, I loved it. It was like work I really was passionate about. And we just kind of clicked. And that was maybe 15 years ago now, my first HR role.
Wow.
And then I decided to get certified, and took on more roles with more responsibility and bigger organizations. And here I am today. So.
Now that you're here at the village, what excites you most about serving as our Chief Human Resources Officer?
Yeah. So many things. The first thing I'll mention though is something that was something that I felt the moment that I met folks at the village during my interview process. And it's the culture here. I think that's probably the most exciting part of my work is just I get the privilege of being a member of this awesome community. And that makes the work so much more fun and easier when you're doing
Yes.
it in a space where you really enjoy your colleagues and just the atmosphere in general. The second thing I'd say is my team, the folks that I get to spend the most time with, and they're all fantastic and have very strong experience and skill sets. So there's a very strong foundation here for the work that's ahead, which I am also excited about. There's just a lot of opportunity for us to make things even better, which excite me as well.
That's awesome. And I know later I have a few, we'll get more into your team and what they do and how they support all of us. But before we do that, let's switch gears. And why don't you talk about outside of work? How do you like to
Mm.
recharge and what are the things you like to do outside of work?
Yes. So I'll share a little bit about my personal life. I am married. My wife and I have been married 13 years, together 15. And we have three children, three daughters. So I'm a girl dad. Uh, 10, 7, and 4 are their ages. And our two oldest are actually here now. I'm sitting in Camelback at the moment, and they're doing summer camp here this week and next. So that's another
Fun.
awesome benefit of being a member of this community. So yeah, they keep me busy. Outside of
That.
work, if I'm not working, I am spending time with my family, but also, carting our girls around. They're very active outside of work or school, excuse me, with extracurriculars. They each have sort of their own little, like our oldest is really into soccer, our middle child is really into gymnastics, and our 4-year-old is still trying to figure out what she wants, but
Aside from being a girl dad and um what's something that your coworkers might be surprised to learn about you?
Yeah. So my wife and I met at work,
Oh.
but we fell in love on the dance floor. Uh, we are we happened to go to this work function together with a bunch of our colleagues, and we ended up in this salsa club in Midtown New York, called Iguanas, and
No.
we happened to dance to a song together, and then that was it. That was it.
That's amazing. So
Yeah.
you're a good dancer then.
I am, I have to say, not to toot my own horn, but I grew up dancing in my household. we're Dominican culturally from the Dominican Republic. So my dad played music 24/7 essentially. And it was a requirement of children in our family to learn how to dance. Right after learning how to walk, you learn how to dance. So, but a
That's
lot of
so
people don't
great.
know that about me because I don't lead with that, especially not in the workplace. But yeah.
So we will expect to see you and your wife out on the dance floor at our annual employee party.
Oh, yes.
There's a lot of good dancers, so maybe we should have a competition one
There you
party.
go.
That might be fun. Aside from dancing, what other daily habits or routines help you stay focused and productive?
Ooh, that's a good one. These have my habits have evolved over time. The more children you have, the less control you have of your schedule. Never know who's going to wake you up, at 5 in the morning. But a habit that I try to do every day is something that I learned from a coach I worked with a few years ago, and it's starting your day with intention. So instead of I often wake up before my alarm, which helps, so I don't have my phone in my hand, right, when I wake up. But it's part of our nature now, right? Because everything is so accessible to like pick up your phone and see what's going on. So I try to fight that urge by first checking in with myself and just laying in bed with my just with my in my own thoughts, and checking in on how I slept. Do I feel rested? Do I remember my dreams? That's something my wife and I like to talk about, our dreams, if we remember them. And then I check in on my day. So I have a general idea of what I need to accomplish that day, whether it's work or personal. And then I try to visualize myself going through those things, just in my mind. It takes a few seconds, just like high level. I picture myself dropping my kids off at camp and having this podcast recording with
Yeah.
you, and the meetings that I have later today, and prepping dinner and all the things. But just super high level, just so that my mind and body are aware of what's coming, and it helps me stay focused and aligned throughout the day.
Let's move a little bit to your leadership, and I just want you to explain for those who might not know everything that your role involves. Can you tell us what your day is like and what your primary responsibilities are?
Absolutely, yeah. So as a chief human resources officer, I view my role sort of like in two parts. There's the HR piece, right? So I'm the head of our HR department. So I work closely with my team on doing all of the HR related tasks of running a business, which I think we'll get into in a little bit as far as the employee life cycle and how we support that work, both on the ground, but also at a strategic higher level. But the second bucket of work is my role on the senior management team, right? So not every company, first a quick education here, not
Okay.
every business has a CHRO at the senior management team level.
Okay.
Some organizations I've worked for embed HR under finance or under an operations role. So the fact that I report to Carol, our president, is huge. And that was a big part of the reason I was excited about this opportunity. Is it demonstrates that you value the HR function, and you value it so much that I'm at the same level with my finance and IT and marketing colleagues, and also all of our GMs, right? So I'm at the table, and I view that as a privilege from my perspective, where I get to understand the business at a very deep level, and then layer on my HR expertise and say, how can I help you? How can I help the business achieve its goals through the lens of HR, so that the work that my team and I are doing is always connected to something that's going to impact the entire organization, and not just compliance or administrative, but really strategic.
I just love that you did this listening tour across all of the clubs. That's something that just I thought, wow, what a great way to hear from so many different people what's going on at the village. So, out of those listening tours, what are some of the biggest themes or insights you heard from those conversations with our employees?
Yeah, yeah, that was a great experience. And I'll just say, I can't take credit for the idea. I learned it from a leader that I worked with a few years ago, and I saw the impact that it had. It was not only, like you said, getting a chance to hear directly from folks on the ground about what's working, what's not working, what could be improved, but also simultaneously helping me build relationships early on in my onboarding because we have a lot of people here. So that
Yes.
really helped me get ahead of that. So as far as themes, like, and the first thing I'll share is that on not that anything is negative or positive, but on a high level, everyone loves working at the village. Everyone I spoke to, they opened with that even. They're like, I have ideas for how we can be better. And I want to say, I love this place, right? And that is a testament to, again, the culture that we, or I say we now, that
Yes.
the leaders have built here over time. Um, and also the dedication, right, of our staff to our mission and what makes us unique here at the village. Because especially now in today's job market, there are other opportunities out there, but folks choose to stay here, and that's powerful. And then as far as opportunities, there were a number of themes that came out. And I've sort of bucketed them in the way that my team and I are thinking about moving forward with it. One bucket is what I would call the employee experience, right? So everything from compensation to development and training and career pathing. Those were like the three big themes that came out, which are going to be our top priority for my team and I in the coming months. A second theme that came out was around sort of operations, really, is what it boils down to, but consistency across the way that we do things across our clubs. So I think about policies, procedures, and both employee and member facing opportunities there, and streamlining certain decision making and clarity around who owns what, those kinds of things. And again, this is pretty common, right, in an organization of our size, especially when we're pretty flat as an org chart.
Yes.
So there's not a whole lot of centralized decision making, which is both a pro and a con, right? There's
Okay.
like, I think it's one of the aspects that makes the village such a unique place. It's very familial and friendly, but we lack certain structure that can then lead to folks feeling like things aren't as organized as they could be or as
Okay.
streamlined as they could be, right? So there's the opportunity and finding the way to address those things while not taking away from our culture, right? That's the work. I think it could be very easy to implement a new policy or procedure, but if we do it at the expense of what makes us so special, then that's going to have a long-term impact. So the compensation work is definitely top of the list, and that's something that I've already worked with Carol and Doug on. Putting it at the top of our project list. So my team and I are prepping for that. And then I'll just spend a couple of minutes here because this is when I say compensation, it's multifaceted, this project, right? There is the first having an awareness of where our jobs and compensation currently sit
Yes.
against the market, right? So that's one aspect of it. The second part is once we have that information, identifying where the most critical areas are in our business that need to be adjusted, right?
Yes.
Um, and then with that information, then we can decide, well, is this something that we can do all at once? Is this something that we need to phase in over time? And this is where I appreciate having the seat at the senior management table because I'm aware of the other aspects of our business that also need investment, like our facilities and our technology. And I'm aware of the revenue, right, pressures that we feel because we're a for-profit business. I'm aware of our owners' expectations of certain profit margins and returns on their investment. So balancing all of those needs, right? And understanding what can we do, what's the best thing we can do in the short term, and then add on a long-term component to that work. So that's all starting, which is very exciting, and my team is ready for it.
So, that's all really exciting. I'm excited for you and your team, and I know you all have your work cut out for you. So let's talk a little bit about, let's get to know your team. And I want to know who's on your team and what
Mhm.
role they play in supporting our employees.
Yes. And I'll share just last week, my team all got new titles to reflect what I like to call like the modernization of our HR function, because we're transitioning from being mostly administrative and compliance focused to being more of a business partner, and really leveraging the access that we have, not just for me on the senior management team, but even my team. We all have access to a lot of data, business data that we need to be leveraging to support our leaders better. So it isn't just we're not just a resource that you reach out to when you need us. Of course we are, but we can be more proactive about making suggestions or recommendations when we have access to all this information. So with that in mind, I'll talk about my team. We're
Okay.
a mighty team of four, five including me, but my four
Okay.
direct reports. Connie Raza and Gabrielle LaChapelle have been with the company. Connie's been with the Village 20 years, going on 20, I think, and Gabrielle about 11. But they are now our two HR business partners, and they support two clubs each. Connie supports Ocotillo and Camelback, and Gabrielle supports Gainey and DC Ranch. And as HR business partners, they're really in charge, I would say, like oversee the employee life cycle. And through supporting our leaders, right? So everything from recruiting to hiring and onboarding to training and development, like internal, and performance management and goal setting and those kinds of things, right? So the whole
Yes.
spectrum. Our managers and department heads are leading that work, but our HR business partners are supporting from the sidelines. And again, leveraging business data to be proactive in that support. Then we have Therese Snap, who's been with us, I want to say 4.5 years. She started as an HR coordinator and then became a benefits generalist. And we recently changed her title to Total Rewards Manager because she does a lot more than just benefits and leave administration. And she manages a lot of our vendor relationships, so like our brokers and our financial advisors, but also we'll start doing a lot of work in the compensation space. So
Okay.
Teresa and I will be co-leading, co-facilitating that compensation work in the coming months, but really she's going to be project managing that quite heavily. And then we have Michaela Durfield, who's our HR operations coordinator. She's only been here 6 months, but
Okay.
has already made such a huge impact on the way that we manage our employee data. So right now, or up until now, her job has been very heavy on filing paperwork, essentially. Like it's very paper heavy. But we're shifting that to be more, again, more strategic, more focused on maintaining our HRIS, which is currently UKG, making sure that our data in there is accurate and again, usable for us as leaders in the business. But also she's always looking for ways to improve and be more efficient and streamline processes to make it easier for managers to do their day-to-day job. So yeah, that's my team.
How do you and your team create exceptional members experiences? Because we're that's at the top of our view right now is on top of creating those exceptional experiences. And maybe not just for members, but also for fellow employees.
Yeah, 100%. That was the connection I was going to make. And this came up in our hospitality training last week, which I really appreciated that it was in the presentation. But essentially it boils down to us, and not just HR, but all leaders treating our employees the way that we expect our employees to treat our members, right? So it's sort of like this trickle effect, because it wouldn't work from my perspective if we have these high expectations of our employees to create these memorable member experiences, but then they're not getting that from us, right? So that wouldn't be very balanced and could probably lead to a lot of issues as you might imagine. So our job as an HR team is again to align with this business focus and the strategy and embed these hospitality principles as much as we can into the work that we're doing, right? So when Connie and Gabrielle are coaching a leader through a situation, they're going to use that common language and say, well, here's an opportunity for us to show up differently and better, like how, and not that we're going to have all the answers. Sometimes we'll just
Right.
have good questions,
Right.
but that'll lead to open conversation and dialogue around how we can make this turn this into a win-win for the member and the employee, right?
Definitely. And you talked a little bit about the culture earlier. That's kind of what you appreciate about the village. So,
Yeah.
what is your vision for our culture over the next few years? I know we are focused on hospitality, but talk about what you think our culture is and what you think how we can elevate that culture here at the village.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, yeah, and I will separate beyond the idea of better member experiences, right? Because that's always going to be our focus, no matter how
Yes.
successful we are. From a cultural perspective, I see, and this is what some of the themes that came up during the listening tour are there. We are at a size now, 4 clubs, over 800 staff members, where we need to be a little less informal about the way we do things, right? So systematizing certain decisions, aligning jobs across clubs, thinking more holistically. Even so, at the club level, if I'm an employee at Camelback, that's what's going to be on my mind at all times, right? Is Camelback and our members. But I would like us in the future, our culture to shift from, what is best for the village as a whole. So thinking beyond our clubs, so that we avoid making these one-off decisions in the moment, right? That might benefit our club right now, but down the line is going to cause confusion and potential issues when we have to make a broader decision, right? With all 4 clubs in mind. So that's what I envision us moving towards, a culture where we're all thinking about village as a whole, as
Yes.
one company, and one team, and not these 4 dispersed um, units.
So you talked a little bit about how your staff helps employees, but how can employees be a better partner for your staff to create a stronger workplace here at the village?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, the first thing that came to mind is, do your job, do it well, and live our core values and standards. But that's foundational, right? So beyond that,
Yes.
when I think about, a workplace culture, there's an openness in that space where people aren't afraid to share ideas, share feedback, raise concerns, right? Because
Yes.
we don't know what we don't know, so we can't help or intervene even if we're not aware of what's going on. So I would encourage our employees to speak up, and whether that's formally, informally, however, our team is very accessible. Phone call, email, in-person meeting. We're happy to connect in any way, and we're always willing to listen to employee feedback and about anything in general. So not just HR related, but something like I mentioned earlier, the Connie and Gabrielle, but this really applies to all of our team. This business partner mindset means that we're also here to coach, right? So, like I said, we might not have the answers, but we can help you think through something that you're dealing with, and help you see from our perspective what potential solutions might be, and then you pick the best one for you, right? So, but having that openness and those open lines of communication is important.
That's really important. And I was just going to my question that I was going through my mind was if can an employee go to anyone in HR for any situation, or is there a certain person that an employee needs to seek out for certain things?
That's a great question. So we just talked about this last week. We had a team retreat and we
Yes.
talked about our vision for our team and what do we want to be known for at the village. And unanimously, we all want to be known for being approachable, and being the go-to people, right? We are here to help. So that means that you can approach any one of us. And if one of us doesn't have the answer, we'll point you in the right direction. But we don't want to close a door before we even know what it is that you need.
Yeah.
I've worked in places like that where it's like, oh, if this is a benefits question, you go to call this number,
Yes.
right? And then like it's like not aligned with our culture here. So yeah, we're open. All four or five of us have an open door and are accessible to everyone.
We've talked a little bit in senior manager meeting about UKG, and that's the HRIS system, which is Human Resources Information System. Did I get
That's
that
right.
right?
You did,
Oh my
yes.
gosh. But speaking of technology, I'm going into some technology right now because I know it's changing all the time. I want you to talk a little bit about um, the new, if there's going to be a new HRIS system, and then I want you to talk a little bit about AI and what
Mhm.
role that plays in the future for us here at the village.
Yeah, great question. So we are exploring the possibility of a new HRIS. We are in active conversations right now with a potential vendor. And the main reason for that is well, two things. One, our UKG renewal is coming up in February of 2027.
Okay.
So if we are going to implement a change, we need to start that pretty soon because
And
we have to.
UKG is, just so everyone knows, that's our current system, UKG.
UKG
Yes.
is our current system, yeah.
Yes.
I won't mention the vendor that we're exploring because it might not happen, so I don't want to
Okay.
put that name out
That's
there.
fair.
Yeah. But the renewal, or it takes some time to build a new system, test it, make sure it's doing everything we needed to do before we do the switch. So this is the time to do that. But if this doesn't work out with this vendor, then we will likely extend with UKG for a year and give us a little bit more time to explore other vendors.
Okay.
Because the second reason we are exploring a different vendor is because of during the listening tour, this came up quite a bit. Like the challenges that we have with our current HRIS or UKG setup, being that it's a bunch of different modules that are connected, but they don't really. It's not fluid. Like our employee
Okay.
data, it's not all in one place. It's learning is over here, payroll is over there, and certifications live in a different place, and it's just not very intuitive. Even when we're pulling reports on the data that we have, we can't pull like it's very piecemeal and
Okay.
complicated. And for a small team of five, like our HRIS needs to be doing a lot of the heavy lifting, and it's not currently, which means that our team has to spend a lot of time manipulating reports and
Oh,
downloading things into Excel and changing, and it's not the best use of our time. So that's one side of it. The second piece, and this is where I have had a lot of experience with HRISs that do what they're supposed to do
yeah.
and where leaders can actually leverage them as a management tool. So imagine you're a department head at a club and right on your phone, you can see your entire team's schedule. You can see your overtime, whether your future payroll. Like you can make
Right.
real-time business decisions with a tool that you hold on your hand, and it's not something it's not a report you have to print and manipulate or ask HR to get, so it's going to make things a lot easier and give our managers a strategic tool to do their work. So I'm excited.
What's your approach to help employees navigate and embrace change?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, and change management is especially in the world that we live in, like everything is changing constantly. And I think from an HR perspective and in the workplace, the way that we help our team members go through change is it has to be, there's a lot we can talk about this topic, but high level, it has to be intentional, right? So it's
Okay.
change that happens overnight. Sometimes it's necessary, but the vast majority of time, it could have been planned for, right? So being very intentional with when this change is going to happen, why the change needs to happen, and communicating that why, because that's what most people, when you talk about change, that's where they get hung up on. It's like I have to change. I'm very used to doing this thing this way, and now I
Yes.
have to do it differently. Why? Right? That's
Right.
another very very natural and valid question. So leading with that will assuage that, right? So it's like, hey,
Right.
here's why. Let me break it down and help you understand the business need. the challenge that we're trying to address, et cetera, et cetera. But and then don't stop there. Share the vision for the future, right? So like what we just did, where we talked about the possibilities of this future HRIS and how much better our lives are going to be when
Right.
we're not downloading PDFs and searching
Right.
manually through so getting people excited about the change is also important. So it's not just, hey, this was a business decision, get on board. It's more about here's why we're doing this and here's why it's going to be beneficial to you. And yes, it's still going to require some, how do I say this? There might be some uncomfortableness, right, in the
Right.
process because it requires us to do things differently. But we quickly get past that if we know we have clarity around where we're headed. So.
Okay, let's have a little bit of fun. I think it's fun. You might not. But if employees could describe your leadership in one word, what would you hope that word would be?
Hmm.
Just one
Oh,
word.
just one word. Okay. Kind.
Oh,
Kindness is big for me. Yeah.
well, I think you're kind. So you made that one already.
Thank you.
So Juan, as we wrap up, what's the one message you hope every village employee takes away from our conversation today?
Ooh, okay. So maybe a reminder
Mhm.
of the awesome place that the village is. We have a lot of really awesome things here that we offer, not just to our employees as benefits, but just as a culture. Yeah, so that is one big takeaway from this conversation is that the village is a unique place. Yes, there are opportunities, but we have a very, very strong foundation of and legacy that has been built in the culture here. And then the second part related to opportunities is get excited. I think there's a lot of good things coming, good change. And while change can sometimes be difficult, it almost always leads to a better experience. We're leveling up and elevating, like we've been saying,
Love
not just
that.
the member experience, but the employee experience and making the village an even better place to work.
I love that so much. I want to thank you for joining us today and for sharing your insights. A lot of exciting things are going to be happening for us. And we hope that everyone out there enjoy getting to know Juan and learning more about the future for our people, culture, and our HR team. Thanks again, Juan, so much.
Thank you, Diana. This was fun.